A girl was born on a planet where the sun never truly rose. Dathomir, a world wrapped in red mist and shadows, where the trees grew twisted and black, where the ground itself seemed to breathe with ancient hatred. This was not a place for the weak. The clans that lived there did not pray to gods. They commanded them. They bent the force to their will through blood and ritual, through whispers in the dark, through magic that predated the Jedi and the Sith. And into this world, a daughter was born. Her name would one day be feared across the galaxy. But on the night of her birth, she was just a child, crying in the cold, wrapped in cloth stained with her mother's blood. She had no father, not one that mattered. On Dathomir, men were slaves, tools, vessels for breeding or combat. Nothing more. The Nightsisters ruled, and the strongest among them commanded everything. The girl's mother was a witch of moderate power, not a clan leader, not a legend, just another survivor, in a world that devoured the weak daily. But she saw something in her daughter's eyes, a hunger, not for food, not for warmth, for power. The child did not cry for long. She watched, she listened. Even as an infant, her eyes followed the movements of the other witches, the gestures they made, the words they whispered. Her mother knew then, this one would be different. This one would survive. The girl grew quickly. By the age of 5, she could summon small spirits, wisps of green light that danced around her fingers. The other children feared her. The adults watched her carefully. She did not play. She did not laugh. She learned. The Nightsisters taught through cruelty. A child who could not defend herself was beaten. A child who could not summon the magic was abandoned in the forests, left to die among the rancors and the spirits. The girl survived every test. When she was 7, her mother took her to the altar of bones, a place where the oldest magics were taught, where the spirits of dead witches whispered their secrets. Listen, her mother said. Do not speak. Do not interrupt. Just listen. The girl knelt in the dirt. The voices came. At first, they were soft, gentle, almost kind. Then they grew louder, angrier. They screamed, they wailed. They demanded blood and sacrifice and pain. Most children ran. The girl stayed. She closed her eyes. She let the voices wash over her. She did not flinch. She did not cry. And when the voices finally stopped, she opened her eyes. Her mother was staring at her. What did they say? Her mother asked. The girl smiled. They said I will be their queen. By the age of 12, she had killed her first rival. It was not murder, not by Nightsister law. It was a duel, a test of strength. The other girl had challenged her in front of the clan, called her weak, called her motherless. A mistake. The duel lasted 30 seconds. The girl did not use a blade. She did not use her fists. She used the spirits. She summoned them from the ground, from the trees, from the bones buried beneath the altar. They swarmed the other girl, pulled her down into the dirt, held her there as she screamed. The clan watched in silence. The girl walked forward. She knelt beside her rival. She leaned close. You were right, she whispered. I am weak. That's why I don't fight fair. She pressed her hand against the girl's chest. The spirits poured into her. The screaming stopped. When the girl stood, her rival was still breathing. But her eyes were empty. Her mind was gone. The clan elder stepped forward. What is your name, child? The girl looked at her. Talzin. The elder nodded slowly. You will go far, Talzin, or you will die trying. Talzin smiled. I don't plan to die. She studied under the clan's strongest witches. She learned to manipulate the living force in ways the Jedi would call unnatural. She could reach into a person's mind and twist their thoughts. She could drain their life force with a touch. She could summon entire armies of spirits to do her bidding. But knowledge was not enough. On Dathomir, power was earned through dominance. Talzin began to challenge the older witches. Not with duels. She was smarter than that. She challenged them with results. When the clan needed food, Talzin hunted the rancors alone and returned with enough meat to feed them for weeks. When rival clans attacked, Talzin summoned barriers of magic that no warrior could penetrate. When the spirits grew restless and began attacking the clan, Talzin bound them with rituals so powerful that even the elders were afraid. She did not ask for authority. She simply took it. By the time she was 20, half the clan followed her instead of the elder. By the time she was 25, the elder was dead. No one knew how she died, but everyone knew who had killed her. Talzin stood before the clan as their new leader. She did not celebrate. She did not gloat. She simply looked at them with those cold, hungry eyes. "We have survived," she said. "But survival is not enough. We are the Nightsisters. We are the daughters of Dathomir, and we deserve more than this." The witches stared at her. "More than what?" one of them asked. Talzin smiled. "More than hiding in the mist. More than fighting over scraps. More than being forgotten by a galaxy that doesn't even know we exist." She raised her hand. Green light poured from her fingers. It swirled around her like a living thing. "I will make them know," she said. "I will make them fear. And when they look to the stars, they will see Dathomir. They will see us." The witches did not cheer, but they knelt. And Talzin looked up at the red sky. She had power now, but it was not enough. It would never be enough. Because deep inside her, beneath the magic and the ambition and the cold, there was something else. A void. An emptiness that no amount of power could fill. She did not know it yet. But one day, that void would destroy her. Talzin ruled the Nightsisters with absolute authority. She was not a kind leader. She did not comfort the weak or forgive the failures. But she was effective. Under her command, the Nightsisters grew stronger. They raided rival clans. They captured Zabrak males and brought them back to Dathomir. They expanded their territory. And Talzin herself became something more than a witch. She became a legend. The other clans whispered her name in fear. The spirits obeyed her without question. Even the rancors seemed to bow when she walked past. But legends are lonely. Talzin had power, she had respect, she had fear, but she had no equals. No one to stand beside her. No one to challenge her. No one to understand her. She was alone, and in the quiet moments, when the clan slept and the mist grew thick, she would sit by the altar of bones and stare into the darkness. "Is this all there is?" she would whisper. The spirits did not answer. Then one night she had a vision. She was not asleep. She was not meditating. The vision simply came. She saw a figure in black robes, a man. His face was hidden, but his presence was overwhelming. He radiated power, not the wild, chaotic power of the Nightsisters. This was different. This was control. This was precision. This was the dark side refined into a blade. And in the vision, the man spoke. "I have been watching you, Talzin." She tried to speak, but no words came. "You are strong," the man continued, "but you are wasted here, on this forgotten world. You could be so much more." The vision faded. Talzin opened her eyes. Her hands were shaking. Not from fear, from excitement. Someone had seen her. Someone powerful. Someone who understood. She did not know who he was. But she knew one thing. He would come. And when he did, everything would change. She waited. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. The vision did not return. But Talzin did not forget. She prepared. She strengthened her magic. She gathered her best warriors. She made the Nightsisters ready for something she could not yet name. And then, on a night when the red moon hung low over Dathomir, a ship descended from the sky. It was black, sleek, silent. It landed just outside the clan's village. The Nightsisters gathered, weapons ready. Talzin stood at the front, her eyes locked on the ship. The ramp lowered. A figure stepped out. He wore black robes. His face was hidden beneath a hood. But Talzin knew him. This was the man from her vision. He walked toward her slowly, calmly, as if he owned the ground beneath his feet. The Nightsisters raised their weapons. Talzin raised her hand. "Lower them," she said. The witches hesitated, but they obeyed. The man stopped a few feet from Talzin. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other. Then the man smiled. "Mother Talzin," he said softly, "I've been looking forward to meeting you." Talzin's heart raced, but her voice was calm. "Who are you?" The man pulled back his hood. His face was pale, his eyes were yellow, his smile was cold. "I am Darth Sidious," he said, "and I have come to offer you the galaxy." Talzin stared at him, and for the first time in her life, she felt something she had never felt before: hope. Darth Sidious did not stay long on that first visit. He spoke for less than an hour. He made no demands. He made no threats. He simply planted a seed. "You are powerful, Talzin," he said as he walked through the Nightsister village. His eyes scanned the huts, the altars, the witches who watched him with suspicion. "More powerful than you realize. But power without purpose is just noise." Talzin walked beside him. She said nothing. She simply listened. Sidious stopped at the edge of the village. He looked out at the red mist that swallowed the horizon. "This world is a prison," he said. "You have made yourself queen of a cage. But beyond this mist, there is a galaxy, trillions of lives, thousands of worlds. And all of it is waiting for someone strong enough to take it." He turned to her. "I can show you how." Talzin met his gaze. "And what do you want in return?" Sidious smiled. "Partnership. Nothing more. I am building something, Talzin. Something that will reshape the galaxy. And I need allies who understand true power." He extended his hand. "Join me, learn from me. And when the time comes, you will have everything you've ever wanted." Talzin looked at his hand. She did not take it. "Not yet. I will consider your offer," she said. Sidious nodded. He lowered his hand. "Take your time, but not too much. Opportunity does not wait forever." He walked back to his ship. The ramp closed. The engines roared. And then he was gone. Talzin stood alone in the mist. Her mind was racing. She had spent her entire life clawing her way to the top of Dathomir. She had sacrificed. She had killed. She had become the most powerful witch on the planet. But Sidious was right. This was a cage, and she wanted out. Sidious returned 3 months later. This time, he brought gifts. Ancient Sith texts, holocrons filled with knowledge that even the Nightsisters did not possess. Weapons forged with the dark side. Artifacts that pulsed with malevolent energy. He laid them before Talzin, like offerings. "These are yours," he said, a gesture of good faith. "Study them, learn from them. And when you are ready, I will teach you more." Talzin took the holocrons. She could feel the power radiating from them, knowledge that had been lost for millennia. This was not magic. This was something else. This was the dark side in its purest form. She looked at Sidious. You said you wanted partnership, but you are Sith. The Sith do not share power. Sidious laughed softly. You are correct. The Sith follow the rule of two. One master, one apprentice. But you are not Sith, Talzin. You are something different, something older, and I have no desire to make you my apprentice. He leaned closer. I want you as an ally, a collaborator. Together we can achieve what neither of us could alone. Talzin studied him. She did not trust him. She would never trust him. But she wanted what he was offering. Very well, she said. I will work with you. But know this, Sidious. I am no one's servant. Sidious smiled. I would expect nothing less. The partnership began. Sidious visited Dathomir regularly, sometimes once a month, sometimes once every few months. Each time, he brought more knowledge, more power, more promises. He taught Talzin techniques that the Nightsisters had never imagined. How to drain the life force from a living being across vast distances. How to manipulate minds without touching them. How to bend the force itself into shapes that defied nature. Talzin absorbed it all. She was a perfect student, quick, ruthless, hungry, and Sidious seemed pleased. You are wasted here, he told her one night as they stood beneath the red moon. You could rule systems. You could command armies. You could sit beside me as the galaxy burns and is reborn. Talzin looked at him. Then why keep me here? Sidious smiled. Because you are not ready, not yet. You are powerful, Talzin. But power alone is not enough. You must learn patience, strategy, how to move in the shadows without being seen. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Trust me. When the time is right, I will bring you into the galaxy, and together we will reshape it. Talzin nodded. She believed him. She wanted to believe him, because for the first time in her life, someone saw her as more than a witch, more than a leader. Sidious saw her as an equal. Or so she thought. Years passed. Talzin grew stronger. The Nightsisters grew stronger. Under her command, the clans united. Rivalries were ended. Blood feuds were settled. For the first time in centuries, Dathomir was at peace. But it was a cold peace. Talzin ruled with an iron fist. Disobedience was punished with death. Weakness was not tolerated. The Nightsisters became a weapon, honed and ready. And all the while, Talzin waited for Sidious to fulfill his promise, to bring her into the galaxy, to give her the power he had spoken of. But he never did. He continued to visit. He continued to teach. He continued to praise her. But he never took her off Dathomir. Talzin began to grow impatient. When? She asked him one night. When will you bring me into your plans? Sidious looked at her with those cold yellow eyes. Soon, he said. But there is one more thing I need from you. Talzin's heart sank. She had known this was coming. Nothing was free. Not even partnership. What do you want? She asked. Sidious smiled. A child. Talzin stared at him. A child. Sidious nodded. I need an apprentice, Talzin. Someone strong in the Force. Someone I can mold from birth. Someone who will be completely loyal to me. He stepped closer. You are the most powerful Force-sensitive woman I have ever met. And on this world, there are males bred for strength and ferocity. Together, you could create something extraordinary. Talzin's mind raced. She had never wanted children. Motherhood was a weakness, a distraction. But Sidious was asking, And if she refused, she knew what would happen. He would leave. He would take his knowledge and his promises and disappear. And she would be trapped on Dathomir forever. She looked at him. "If I do this," she said slowly, "you will give me what you promised. You will bring me into the galaxy." Sidious nodded. "You have my word." Talzin hesitated. Then she nodded. "Very well. I will give you your apprentice." Sidious smiled. "Good. I will return in 1 year." He left that night, and Talzin stood alone in the darkness. She had made a deal with the devil, and deep down, she knew she would regret it. Talzin chose a Zabrak male from the Night Brothers. He was strong, fierce. His bloodline was pure. His connection to the Force was undeniable. She did not love him. She did not even speak to him. He was a tool, a means to an end. 9 months later, she gave birth to a son. The child was born screaming. His skin was red. His eyes were bright yellow. Even as an infant, he radiated power. Talzin held him for the first time. She looked down at his face, and for a moment, something inside her shifted. She had not expected to feel anything. She had not expected to care. But as she held him, she felt something she had not felt in years. Protectiveness. This was her son, her blood, her creation. She named him Maul. Sidious returned exactly 1 year later. He walked into Talzin's chambers without knocking, without warning. Talzin was sitting by the fire, holding Maul in her arms. The child was asleep. His tiny chest rose and fell with each breath. Sidious looked at them. "Is he strong?" he asked. Talzin did not look up. "Yes." Sidious approached. He knelt beside her. He reached out and touched the child's forehead. Maul's eyes opened. Even as an infant, he did not cry. He simply stared at Sidious with those yellow eyes. Sidious smiled. "Perfect." He stood. "I will take him now." Talzin's arms tightened around Maul. "Now?" Sidious nodded. "He must begin his training immediately. Every day matters." Talzin looked down at her son. She had known this was coming. She had prepared herself. But now, in this moment, she realized something. She did not want to let him go. "You promised me," she said quietly. "You said, if I gave you this child, you would bring me into the galaxy." Sidious looked at her. "And I will. In time." Talzin's eyes snapped up. "In time." Sidious's expression did not change. "Talzin, you are not ready. Not yet. But when you are, I will send for you. You have my word." Talzin stared at him, and in that moment she saw the truth. He was lying. He had always been lying. He had no intention of making her his equal. He had no intention of bringing her into the galaxy. He had used her. He had taken what he wanted. And now he was leaving. Talzin's hands trembled. She wanted to kill him. She wanted to summon every spirit on Dathomir and tear him apart. But she couldn't. He was too strong, too prepared. And if she attacked him now, he would kill her. And Maul would still be taken. So she did the only thing she could. She handed him her son. Sidious took Maul gently. He cradled the child in his arms. "Thank you, Talzin," he said. "You have given me a great gift." He turned and walked toward the door. Talzin watched him. Her heart was breaking, but her face was stone. Sidious stopped at the doorway. He looked back at her. "I will take good care of him," he said. "I promise." Then he was gone. Talzin sat alone in the darkness. Her son was gone. Her partnership was a lie, and she had nothing. She closed her eyes, and for the first time since she was a child, she wept. Days passed. Talzin did not eat. She did not sleep. She did not speak. She sat in her chambers and stared at the fire. The Nightsisters whispered. They wondered if their leader had finally broken. But Talzin was not broken. She was planning. Sidious had betrayed her. He had stolen her son. He had used her like a tool and discarded her. But Talzin was not a fool. She knew one thing about the Sith. They always underestimated their enemies. Sidious thought she was trapped on Dathomir. He thought she was powerless. He thought she would accept her fate and fade into obscurity. He was wrong. Talzin stood. She walked to the altar of bones. She placed her hands on the ancient stone. And she whispered, "I will have my revenge. I will take back what is mine. And when I do, Sidious will learn what it means to cross a mother." The spirits answered. Green light filled the chamber. And Talzin smiled. The game was not over. It had only just begun. Darth Sidious took Maul to a world far from Dathomir. A world of stone and shadow. A world where no one would hear the child scream. And scream he did. Sidious did not raise Maul with kindness. He did not comfort him. He did not hold him when he cried. He trained him. From the moment Maul could walk, Sidious pushed him, made him fight, made him bleed, made him understand that weakness meant death. And Maul learned quickly. By the age of 3, he could hold a training saber. By the age of 5, he could kill a full-grown man. By the age of 7, he had forgotten what it felt like to smile. He was not a child. He was a weapon. And Sidious was forging him into the perfect tool. But Maul remembered, not clearly, not in words or images, but somewhere deep in his mind, buried beneath the pain and the training and the hatred, there was a memory. Warm arms, a soft voice, a presence that made him feel safe. His mother, he did not know her name. He did not know her face. But he remembered her. And sometimes, in the rare moments when he was alone, he would close his eyes and try to reach for that memory. It never lasted. Sidious always found him, always dragged him back into the present, always reminded him that the past did not matter. "You have no mother," Sidious would say. "You have no family. You have only the dark side, and you have me." Maul believed him. Because what choice did he have? Back on Dathomir, Talzin did not forget. She could not. Every night she reached out through the Force. She searched for her son. She tried to find him across the vast emptiness of space. But Sidious had hidden him well. No matter how hard she searched, she could not sense him, could not find him, could not even feel his presence. It was as if he had been erased from existence. But Talzin knew he was alive. She could feel it. A mother always knows. So she waited. And while she waited, she grew stronger. She studied the Sith holocrons Sidious had given her. She mastered techniques that no Nightsister had ever learned. She pushed her magic to its limits and beyond. She became more than a witch. She became something the galaxy had not seen in centuries. A dark priestess, a queen of shadows, a force of nature. And all of it was aimed at one goal: revenge. Years passed. Maul grew into a young man. He was a perfect killer. Fast, strong, ruthless. He knew no fear. He felt no remorse. He was everything Sidious had wanted. But he was not everything. There was something missing, something Sidious could not quite name. Maul followed orders. He completed missions. He killed without hesitation. But there was no loyalty, no devotion, only obedience born from fear. Sidious had broken the boy's spirit. He had turned him into a weapon. But weapons do not love their masters. They simply wait for the moment to turn. Sidious knew this. He accepted it. Because he never intended for Maul to be his true apprentice. Maul was a tool, a placeholder, a blade to be used and discarded when the time was right. And when that time came, Sidious would cast him aside without a second thought. On Dathomir, Talzin made her first move. She did not strike at Sidious directly. She was not foolish. Instead, she began to build. She reached out to other Force users, other outcasts, other beings who had been betrayed by the Sith or the Jedi. She offered them power, protection, purpose. And they came, slowly at first, then in greater numbers. Talzin did not create an army. She created a network, a web of spies and assassins and Force users who owed her loyalty. She called them her acolytes, and she used them to gather information. She learned about Sidious's movements, his plans, his weaknesses. She learned that he had a new identity now, that he called himself Senator Palpatine, that he was moving through the galaxy's political systems like a virus. And she learned about the rule of two. One master, one apprentice. If Maul was Sidious's apprentice, then there was a master above him, a Sith Lord named Darth Plagueis. Talzin filed that information away. It would be useful. One night, Talzin had another vision. She saw Maul. He was older now, a young man. His face was covered in black tattoos, his eyes burned with yellow fire. He was kneeling before Sidious, and Sidious was smiling. "You are ready," Sidious said in the vision. "Soon, you will reveal yourself to the Jedi, and together we will watch them fall." Maul said nothing. He simply nodded. But behind his eyes, Talzin could see something else. Emptiness. Her son was alive, but the boy she had held in her arms was gone. Sidious had destroyed him. The vision faded. Talzin opened her eyes. Tears ran down her face. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of rage. She tried to reach him. Not physically. She could not leave Dathomir. Not yet. But through the Force, she reached out with her magic. She called to him across the stars. "Maul," she whispered into the void. "My son, can you hear me?" For a long moment there was nothing. Then, faintly, she felt something. A flicker, a spark, a presence reaching back. "Maul." He could not hear her words, but he felt her presence. And for just a moment, he remembered. Warm arms, a soft voice, a feeling of safety. His mother. Then, the connection broke. Sidious had sensed the intrusion. He severed the bond with a single violent motion. And Maul was alone again. Talzin collapsed. She had reached him. For just a moment, she had touched her son's mind. But it was not enough. Not nearly enough. Sidious knew what Talzin had tried to do, and he was not pleased. He returned to Dathomir one final time. Talzin was waiting for him. She stood at the edge of the village, arms crossed. Her eyes were cold. Sidious descended from his ship. He walked toward her slowly. "You overstepped, Talzin," he said. Talzin did not flinch. "You stole my son." Sidious smiled. "I took what you gave me. Willingly, I might add." Talzin's jaw tightened. "You promised me partnership. You promised me power. You promised me the galaxy." Sidious stopped in front of her. "I promised you many things, and perhaps one day I will deliver. But you must understand something, Talzin. Maul is mine now, not yours. If you try to contact him again, there will be consequences." Talzin's hands curled into fists. "Are you threatening me?" Sidious's smile faded. "No, I am warning you. Stay on Dathomir. Continue your work, grow your power. But do not interfere with my plans. Do not reach for my apprentice. He leaned closer. Or I will come back here, and I will burn this planet to ash. For a long moment, they stared at each other, two predators circling. Then Sidious turned and walked back to his ship. Talzin watched him leave. Her heart was pounding. Her blood was boiling. But she did not strike. Not yet. Because she knew something Sidious did not. She was patient. And one day, when he least expected it, she would take everything from him. Just as he had taken everything from her. Years passed again. Talzin did not contact Maul. She did not reach out through the Force. She simply watched. She used her network of spies to track his movements, to learn about his missions, to understand what he was becoming. And what she learned broke her heart. Maul was a monster. He killed without mercy. He destroyed entire ships. He slaughtered innocents. He was everything Sidious had wanted him to be, a perfect weapon of the dark side. But he was not her son. Not anymore. Talzin wept in silence, not because she mourned the boy he had been, but because she mourned the boy he could have been. If Sidious had never come to Dathomir, if she had never made that deal, if she had been stronger, but regret changed nothing, and Talzin was not one to dwell on the past. So she buried her grief, and she focused on the future. The Clone Wars were coming. Talzin could feel it. The galaxy was on the edge of chaos. The Jedi were blind, the Republic was weak, and Sidious was moving his pieces into place. He had a new apprentice now, a former Jedi named Dooku. Maul had been cast aside, left to rot on some forgotten mission. Talzin had heard the rumors. Maul had been cut in half by a Jedi, left for dead on Naboo. Sidious had abandoned him, just as she had known he would. And now, her son was gone, truly gone. Not just stolen, dead. Talzin stood on the cliffs of Dathomir, staring up at the red sky. She felt nothing. Not sadness, not grief. Just emptiness. The void inside her had grown. It had consumed everything. Her ambition, her anger, her hope, all of it was gone. And in its place was something darker, something colder, vengeance. But then, something unexpected happened. A visitor came to Dathomir. Not Sidious. Someone else. A Jedi. His name was Quinlan Vos. He was hunting a Sith assassin named Asajj Ventress, and his search had led him to Dathomir. Talzin met him at the edge of the village. "Why are you here, Jedi?" she asked. Vos looked at her with cautious eyes. "I'm looking for someone, a woman named Ventress. I heard she came from this world." Talzin studied him. She could sense his intentions. He was not here to fight. He was here for information. "Ventress was once one of us," Talzin said. "But she left long ago. She serves the Sith now." Vos frowned. "The Sith? You mean Dooku?" Talzin nodded. "She is his assassin, his weapon, just as my son was Sidious's weapon." Vos's eyes widened. "Your son?" Talzin smiled bitterly. "His name was Maul. Perhaps you've heard of him." Vos said nothing. Talzin turned away. "Go, Jedi. You will not find Ventress here. But if you do find her, tell her something for me." Vos hesitated. "What?" Talzin looked back at him. "Tell her that the Nightsisters remember, and we do not forget betrayal." Vos nodded slowly. Then he left. Talzin watched him go. Her mind was racing. Ventress was Dooku's apprentice. Dooku was Sidious's apprentice. And Sidious had stolen her son. An idea began to form. A terrible, beautiful idea. Talzin called a gathering of the Nightsisters. They assembled before her in the red mist, hundreds of them, warriors, witches, priestesses. Talzin stood at the center, her presence overwhelming. "The galaxy is at war," she said. "The Jedi and the Sith are tearing each other apart, and we have been forgotten." The witches murmured in agreement. "But we will not remain forgotten," Talzin continued. "We will rise. We will make them see us, and we will take what is ours." She raised her hand. Green light swirled around her fingers. "The Sith stole from me. They took my son. They broke their promises. And now they will pay." The witches roared. Talzin smiled. "This is not just revenge. This is war. And we will fight it in the shadows. We will strike from the darkness. We will use their own weapons against them." She looked at each of them. "Prepare yourselves. The clone wars have begun, and the Nightsisters will not be left behind." The witches howled into the night, and Talzin stood at the center of it all, her eyes burning with cold fire. Sidious had made a mistake. He had thought she was weak. He had thought she would stay on Dathomir forever. He had thought she would fade into obscurity. But he was wrong. Talzin was not weak. She was patient. And now, the time for patience was over. Maul did not die on Naboo. He should have. Any other being would have. But Maul was not any other being. He was born of Dathomir, trained by a Sith Lord, fueled by hatred so pure it burned hotter than any lightsaber. When Obi-Wan Kenobi cut him in half, Maul's body fell into the reactor shaft. His lower half was gone. His organs were exposed. His blood poured out like a river. But his mind did not break. It fractured. He fell through the darkness, screaming, not from pain, from rage. Rage at the Jedi. Rage at Sidious. Rage at the galaxy. And somewhere deep in that rage, there was a name, a presence, a memory so old he barely recognized it. His mother. He clung to that memory as he fell into the abyss. And somehow, impossibly, he survived. Talzin felt it. The moment Maul was struck down, she was sitting in her chambers on Dathomir when the pain hit her. A sudden, violent rupture in the Force. She gasped, clutched her chest, fell to her knees. For a moment, she thought she was dying. Then she realized it was not her pain. It was his, Maul, her son. He was hurt, broken, dying, but not dead. She reached out through the Force, desperately searching for him. She threw her consciousness across the galaxy, screaming his name into the void. But there was nothing, only silence. And then, faintly, she felt something. A whisper, a flicker, a presence so weak it was almost gone. He was alive. Barely, but alive. Talzin collapsed onto the floor, tears streaming down her face. "Hold on," she whispered. "Please, hold on." But she could not reach him, could not help him, could not save him. All she could do was hope. Maul drifted through space for years. He did not remember how he survived. He did not remember where he went. His mind was shattered. His memories were broken. His body was barely holding together. He ended up on a junk planet called Lotho Minor, a world of trash and scavengers and forgotten things. He lived in the garbage. He ate scraps. He built himself new legs out of metal and wire and desperation. And he lost himself completely. He forgot his name. He forgot his training. He forgot everything except the rage. And the memory, warm arms, a soft voice, a presence that made him feel safe. His mother. He did not know who she was. He did not know where she was. But he remembered her, and in his madness he called out to her. "Mother," he would whisper in the darkness. "Mother, where are you?" But she did not come, and Maul was alone. On Dathomir, Talzin continued her work. She could no longer sense Maul. His presence in the Force had vanished completely. She told herself he was still alive, that he was hiding, that one day he would return. But deep down, she knew the truth. Her son was gone, and it was her fault. She had given him to Sidious. She had let him be taken. She had traded her son for power that never came. And now, she would never see him again. The guilt ate at her, but she did not let it stop her. She channeled it, used it, turned it into fuel for her vengeance. If she could not save Maul, she would destroy the man who had taken him. Sidious would pay, even if it took the rest of her life. The Clone Wars raged across the galaxy, and Talzin saw opportunity. She reached out to Count Dooku, Sidious's new apprentice. She offered him a gift. "I have heard you lost an assassin," she said when he arrived on Dathomir. Dooku looked at her with cold eyes. "Ventress failed me. She is no longer useful." Talzin smiled. "Then allow me to offer you a replacement. The Nightsisters are the finest warriors in the galaxy. Choose any of them, and they will serve you without question." Dooku studied her. "And what do you want in return?" Talzin's smile did not waver. "Only an alliance. The Separatists have resources, technology, ships. Share them with us, and we will share our strength with you." Dooku considered this. "Very well, show me your warriors." Talzin led him to the village. She gathered the Nightsisters before him, and Dooku chose. His name was Savage Opress, a Zabrak warrior, tall, strong, fierce, but not Force-sensitive. Not yet. Talzin took Savage to the altar of bones. She performed a ritual, a dark, terrible ritual that flooded his body with magic. He screamed. He convulsed. His body twisted and grew. And when it was over, he was no longer just a warrior. He was a weapon. Talzin presented him to Dooku. "He is yours," she said. But in her mind, she added another sentence. For now, Savage Opress was sent to serve Dooku. But Talzin had given him secret orders. "When the time is right," she had whispered, "you will kill him, and you will bring me his head." Savage nodded. He did not question, he simply obeyed. But before he could act, something happened. Ventress returned to Dathomir. She was broken, beaten, betrayed by Dooku just as Talzin had predicted. Talzin welcomed her home. "You were cast aside," Talzin said gently, "just as I was, just as my son was. The Sith do not value loyalty. They only value power." Ventress looked at her with hollow eyes. "What do you want from me?" Talzin smiled. "I want to help you. I want to give you the chance to make Dooku pay for what he did." Ventress's eyes narrowed. "How?" Talzin gestured toward the altar. "Savage Opress is with Dooku now, but he serves me. Together, the three of us will destroy the Count, and you will have your revenge." Ventress hesitated. Then she nodded. "I'm in." The plan failed. Savage and Ventress attacked Dooku together. They nearly killed him. But at the last moment, Sidious intervened. He arrived on the ship and slaughtered everyone in his path. Savage barely escaped. Ventress fled into the shadows. And Dooku survived. Talzin watched from Dathomir, her fists clenched. She had been so close. But Sidious had ruined everything. Again, she wanted to scream. She wanted to tear the galaxy apart. But instead, she took a breath. And she waited. Savage returned to Dathomir, defeated and ashamed. But Talzin was not angry. "You did well," she said. Savage looked at her in confusion. "I failed. Dooku is alive." Talzin shook her head. "You survived. That is what matters." She placed a hand on his shoulder. "There is something I need you to do. Something more important than killing Dooku." Savage frowned. "What?" Talzin looked into his eyes. "I need you to find my son." Savage blinked. "Your son? I thought he was dead." Talzin smiled sadly. "So did I. But I can feel him. Somewhere out there, he is alive, lost, broken, but alive." She handed Savage a talisman, a small amulet that pulsed with green light. "This will guide you to him. Follow it. Find him and bring him home." Savage took the amulet. "And if he doesn't want to come?" Talzin's expression hardened. "Then make him." Savage left Dathomir that night. He followed the talisman across the galaxy, through the outer rim, through forgotten systems and dead worlds. And finally, he arrived on Lotho Minor. The planet was a graveyard, a wasteland of trash and rust and decay. Savage descended into the depths, and there, in the darkness, he found him. Maul, or what was left of him. He was barely recognizable. His body was twisted. His legs were made of scrap metal. His mind was shattered. He crouched in the shadows, muttering to himself, "Mother, Mother, where are you?" Savage approached slowly. "Brother," he said softly. Maul's head snapped up. His yellow eyes locked onto Savage. And for a moment, there was recognition. Then there was rage. Maul lunged. Savage caught him easily. Maul was weak, broken, no match for Savage's strength. "Stop," Savage said firmly. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to take you home." Maul struggled, screamed, clawed at Savage's arms. But Savage held him. "Mother sent me," Savage said. Maul froze. "Mother," he whispered. Savage nodded. "Yes, she's been looking for you. She never stopped." Maul's eyes filled with tears. She remembers me." Savage's heart broke. She never forgot. Savage brought Maul back to Dathomir. Talzin was waiting at the village entrance. When she saw him, her breath caught. He was a shell, a broken, twisted shadow of the boy she had held in her arms. But he was alive. Savage carried him forward and laid him at her feet. Talzin knelt beside him. Maul looked up at her with wild, desperate eyes. "Mother," he whispered. Talzin's tears fell. "Yes, my son, I'm here." Maul reached for her. His hand trembled. I thought you were gone. I thought I was alone." Talzin took his hand. "You were never alone. I have been searching for you, waiting for you." She pressed his hand to her chest. "And now you're home." Maul wept. For the first time in years, he wept. Not from pain, not from rage, from relief. Talzin carried Maul to the altar of bones. She laid him on the stone. The other Nightsisters gathered around, their faces solemn. "He is broken," Talzin said. "His body, his mind, his spirit. But I will heal him." She placed her hands on his chest. Green light poured from her fingers. Maul screamed, not from pain, from the memories flooding back. His training, his missions, his betrayal. Everything Sidious had done to him. Everything he had lost. Talzin poured her magic into him. She mended his mind. She replaced his broken legs with new ones, forged from dark magic. And slowly, piece by piece, she put her son back together. When it was over, Maul lay still on the altar. His eyes were clear, His body was whole. And for the first time in years, he was himself again. He sat up slowly. He looked at Talzin. "Thank you," he whispered. Talzin cupped his face. "You are my son. I will always protect you." Maul closed his eyes. And for the first time since he was a child, he felt safe. But the peace did not last. Because Maul had not forgotten what Sidious had done to him. And now, with his mind restored and his body healed, he wanted only one thing: revenge. Talzin saw it in his eyes, and she smiled. "Then we will take it together." Maul was no longer the boy Sidious had broken. He was something else now. Something darker, something colder, something forged from pain and hatred and a mother's love. He stood on the cliffs of Dathomir, staring up at the stars. Behind him, Talzin and Savage waited in silence. "He cast me aside," Maul said quietly, "like I was nothing, like I was trash." His fists clenched. "I gave him everything, my childhood, my body, my mind. And when I failed once, he left me to die." He turned to face Talzin. "I want him dead." Talzin nodded slowly. "As do I. But Sidious is not a fool. He is cunning, patient, powerful. If we strike at him directly, we will fail." Maul's jaw tightened. "Then what do you suggest?" Talzin smiled. "We do not strike at him. We strike at everything he has built. His apprentice, his army, his plans. We tear it all down, piece by piece." She stepped closer. "And when he is weak, when he is vulnerable, then we kill him." Maul studied her. "You've been planning this for a long time, haven't you?" Talzin's smile widened. "Since the day he took you from me. The Clone Wars provided the perfect cover. The galaxy was in chaos. The Jedi were stretched thin. The Republic was crumbling. And in the shadows, Talzin and Maul began to move. Their first target was Count Dooku. Not to kill him. Not yet. But to destabilize him. To make him weak. To show Sidious that his apprentice was not as strong as he thought. Maul and Savage left Dathomir together. They traveled to the Outer Rim, far from the eyes of the Republic and the Separatists. And there, Maul began to build. He did not want to serve anyone, not Talzin, not Sidious, not the Jedi or the Sith. He wanted power for himself, and he would take it by force. Maul's first move was to unite the criminal underworld. He targeted the galaxy's most powerful syndicates, the Hutts, the Pikes, Black Sunday. He did not ask for their allegiance. He took it. He walked into their strongholds with Savage at his side. He killed their leaders, he crushed their resistance. And he offered the survivors a choice. Join me or die. Most chose to join. Those who didn't were made examples. Within months, Maul controlled half the criminal underworld in the Outer Rim. He had soldiers, ships, resources, and he was just getting started. Talzin watched from Dathomir with pride. Her son had become everything she had hoped he would be. Strong, ruthless, ambitious. But she also saw something else. He was slipping away from her. Maul was no longer content to serve her plans. He was building his own. And Talzin knew that one day, he would leave her behind, just as Sidious had. But she did not stop him. Because she understood. Power was the only thing that mattered. And if Maul's power could destroy Sidious, then she would support him. Even if it meant losing him again. Maul's next target was Mandalore. The neutral planet had stayed out of the Clone Wars. Its leader, Duchess Satine Kryze, refused to take sides. But Maul saw opportunity. Mandalore was a symbol, a beacon of peace in a galaxy at war. If he could conquer it, He would send a message to the entire galaxy. No one was safe. He arrived on Mandalore with an army of criminals and mercenaries. But he did not attack. He infiltrated. He used the Death Watch, a splinter group of Mandalorian warriors who hated the Duchess. Their leader was a man named Pre Vizsla. Maul approached him with an offer. "You want to rule Mandalore? I want to use it as a base. Help me take the planet, and I will let you be its leader." Vizsla studied him suspiciously. "Why should I trust you?" Maul smiled. "Because you have no other choice." Vizsla hesitated. Then he agreed. Together, Maul and Vizsla launched a campaign of terror on Mandalore. They staged attacks, blamed them on the Duchess, made her look weak. The people grew frightened. They began to question her leadership. And then, Maul made his move. He and Vizsla stormed the palace. They captured the Duchess. Vizsla declared himself the new leader of Mandalore. And for a moment, it seemed like Maul had kept his word. But Maul was not a man of his word. He challenged Vizsla to single combat. According to Mandalorian tradition, the winner would rule. Vizsla accepted. The duel was brief. Maul killed him in seconds. And as Vizsla's body fell to the ground, Maul turned to the assembled Mandalorians. "I am your leader now," he said. "Anyone who disagrees is welcome to challenge me." No one moved. Maul smiled. Mandalore was his. But Maul was not finished. He had the Duchess brought before him. She stood tall, even in chains. Her eyes burned with defiance. "You will not break me," she said. Maul tilted his head. "I don't want to break you. I want to use you." He activated a hologram, and on the other end was Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Jedi who had cut Maul in half, the Jedi who had destroyed his life. Kenobi's eyes widened when he saw Satine. "Let her go, Maul," he said. Maul smiled. "No." He ignited his lightsaber. And in front of Kenobi, in front of the entire galaxy, he drove it through Satine's chest. She gasped. Her eyes went wide. And then she fell. Kenobi screamed. Maul watched him with cold satisfaction. "Now you know how it feels," Maul said quietly, "to lose everything." He ended the transmission, and he left Kenobi alone with his grief. The conquest of Mandalore sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Jedi were horrified. The Republic was outraged. But most importantly, Sidious noticed. He had been watching Maul from the shadows, watching as his former apprentice built an empire, and he was not pleased. Sidious had cast Maul aside. He had left him to die, but Maul had survived. And now, he was becoming a threat. Sidious could not allow that. So he traveled to Mandalore himself. Maul was in the throne room when Sidious arrived. He felt the presence before he saw the figure. That familiar, suffocating darkness. Maul turned, and there he was, Darth Sidious, his master, his tormentor, the man who had destroyed his life. Maul's hands trembled, not from fear, from rage. "Master," Maul said coldly. Sidious smiled. "Maul, I must admit, I'm impressed. You've accomplished quite a lot since I left you for dead." Maul's eyes burned. "You abandoned me." Sidious shrugged. "You failed. I had no use for failure." Maul ignited his lightsaber. "Then let me show you how much I've grown." He lunged. The duel was brutal. Maul fought with everything he had, all his rage, all his hatred, all his pain. But it was not enough. Sidious was too strong, too fast, too skilled. He toyed with Maul, deflected his strikes effortlessly, mocked him. "You were never my equal, Maul. You were a tool." and tools are meant to be discarded. Maul screamed and attacked again. Sidious caught his blade, and with a single motion, he disarmed Maul and threw him across the room. Maul hit the wall hard. He collapsed to the ground, gasping. Savage rushed forward to defend his brother. Sidious killed him in seconds. Maul watched in horror as his brother fell, and then Sidious turned to him. "You have become a rival," Sidious said calmly, "and I do not tolerate rivals." He raised his hand. Lightning poured from his fingers. Maul screamed as the electricity tore through his body. He convulsed. He burned. And through the pain, he heard Sidious's voice. "Remember this moment, Maul. Remember who your master is." The lightning stopped. Maul collapsed, barely conscious. Sidious turned and walked away. "You will live," Sidious said without looking back, "because I want you to suffer." And then he was gone. Talzin felt it the moment Savage died. She fell to her knees in her chambers, gasping. Another son, gone, taken by Sidious. Her hands shook, her vision blurred, and for the first time in years, she felt something she had not felt since she was a child. Fear, not for herself, for Maul. She reached out through the Force, desperately searching for him. And she found him, broken, burned, barely alive. But alive, she whispered into his mind. "Hold on, my son. I'm coming." Talzin left Dathomir for the first time in decades. She took her fastest ship. She traveled to Mandalore under the cover of darkness, and she found Maul in the ruins of the palace. He was lying on the ground, his body charred and smoking. Talzin knelt beside him. "Maul," she whispered. His eyes opened. "Mother," she nodded. "I'm here." Tears ran down his face. I failed again." Talzin shook her head. "No, you survived. That is all that matters." She placed her hands on his chest. Green light poured from her. Slowly, painfully, she healed him. When it was over, Maul sat up. He looked at her. "What do we do now?" Talzin's eyes were cold. "Now, we stop hiding. We stop planning. We go to war." Maul nodded. "Against Sidious." Talzin smiled. "Against everyone." Asajj Ventress had nowhere left to go. She stood at the edge of the landing platform on Dathomir, staring out at the red mist that consumed the horizon. Behind her, her ship's engines were still cooling. The metal groaned and hissed in the humid air. She had come home. But this was not a homecoming born of joy or nostalgia. This was survival. Dooku had tried to kill her. The man she had served for years. The man she had bled for. The man she had trusted with her life. He had ordered her execution. His own apprentice. Cast aside like garbage the moment she became inconvenient. Ventress's hands trembled as she remembered. The moment his hologram had appeared. The cold look in his eyes. The way he had spoken to her. "You have failed me for the last time, Ventress." And then the assassins had come. She had barely escaped, barely survived. Now she stood on the only world that had ever been home to her. Dathomir, the planet of her birth, the place where she had learned to survive, where she had learned that power was the only currency that mattered. She had left this world as a child, sold into slavery, trained by pirates, eventually rescued by a Jedi, only to watch him die. And then Dooku had found her. He had promised her purpose, power, revenge against the Jedi who had abandoned her master. She had believed him. She had served him faithfully. And he had thrown her away. Ventress's jaw tightened. She would not be discarded. Not again. Talzin was waiting for her at the village entrance. She stood in the center of the path, surrounded by her Nightsisters. They watched Ventress with suspicious eyes. Ventress had left Dathomir decades ago. She had abandoned the Nightsisters, abandoned their ways. She was not one of them anymore. But Talzin stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "Asajj Ventress," she said softly, "daughter of Dathomir, you have returned." Ventress stopped a few feet away. "I had nowhere else to go." Talzin studied her face. She saw the exhaustion there, the pain, the rage barely contained beneath the surface. "You were betrayed," Talzin said. It was not a question. Ventress nodded slowly. "Dooku tried to have me killed. After everything I did for him, after all the missions, all the blood, he just decided I was no longer useful." Her voice cracked slightly. "So he threw me away." Talzin's expression softened. She stepped closer and placed a hand on Ventress's shoulder. "The Sith do not value loyalty, child. They only value power. You served your purpose, and when you could no longer provide what they needed, they discarded you." Talzin's eyes darkened, "Just as Sidious did to me. Just as he did to my son." Ventress looked up at her. "Maul?" Talzin nodded. "Yes, the Sith Lord who was cut in half by the Jedi. That was my son, stolen from me as a child, trained by Sidious, used, broken, and then abandoned." She squeezed Ventress's shoulder. "We have both been wronged by the same enemy, and now we will make them pay." Ventress's eyes widened. "You want revenge?" Talzin smiled coldly. "I want more than revenge. I want justice. I want them to suffer as we have suffered. I want them to feel the pain of betrayal." She leaned closer. "And you are going to help me?" Ventress hesitated. Part of her wanted to refuse, to walk away, to find some quiet corner of the galaxy where she could disappear and forget everything. But another part of her burned with rage. Dooku had to pay. He could not be allowed to simply move on, to find another apprentice, to continue serving Sidious without consequence. He had to suffer. Ventress nodded slowly. "What do you want me to do?" Talzin's smile widened. "I want you to kill him." The plan took weeks to prepare. Talzin gathered her most powerful Nightsisters. She performed rituals. She called upon the spirits of Dathomir. And she chose a weapon. Savage Opress. He was one of the Night Brothers, a Zabrak warrior from the other side of the planet. Tall, strong, brutal in combat. But he was not force-sensitive. Not yet. Talzin brought him to the altar of bones. Ventress watched from the shadows as Talzin began the ritual. The other Nightsisters formed a circle around Savage. They chanted in an ancient language. Their voices rose and fell like waves. Green light filled the air. Savage's eyes went wide as the magic poured into him. He screamed. His body convulsed, his muscles expanded, his bones lengthened. The transformation was agonizing. But when it was over, Savage stood nearly 8 feet tall. His body was covered in new tattoos. His eyes glowed with yellow fire. He was no longer just a warrior. He was a weapon. Talzin approached him. "You will serve Count Dooku," she said. "You will pretend to be his loyal apprentice. And when the moment is right, you will kill him." Savage nodded without hesitation. "As you command, Mother." Ventress stepped out of the shadows. "I'm going with him." Talzin turned to her. "Are you certain? If Dooku sees you, he will try to kill you again." Ventress's eyes burned with cold determination. "Let him try." They traveled to Dooku's fortress on Sereno. Savage was presented to the Count as a gift from the Nightsisters. a replacement for the apprentice Dooku had lost. Dooku examined Savage carefully. He sensed the power radiating from him. The raw, untamed strength. Impressive, Dooku said. Mother Talzin has outdone herself. He circled Savage slowly. You will serve me. You will obey my every command without question. And if you prove worthy, you may one day earn your place at my side. Savage bowed his head. Yes, Master. Dooku smiled. Good. Your training begins immediately. Ventress watched from a distance. She had infiltrated the fortress through a hidden passage. She moved through the shadows like a ghost. She wanted to strike immediately, to ignite her lightsabers and cut Dooku down where he stood. But she knew that would be foolish. Dooku was one of the greatest duelists in the galaxy. She had trained under him. She knew his techniques, his speed, his precision. She could not beat him alone, so she waited, and watched, and planned. Days turned into weeks. Savage trained under Dooku. He learned the ways of the Sith. He fought battle droids. He sparred with combat trainers. And all the while, Dooku pushed him harder and harder. You are strong, Dooku would say. But strength without discipline is meaningless. You must learn control, precision. The dark side is not a hammer. It is a scalpel. Savage listened. He obeyed. But beneath his obedience, rage simmered. He had not forgotten his true mission. Kill Dooku. One night, Ventress contacted him through a hidden communicator. It's time, she said. Tomorrow night, Dooku will be alone in his chambers. That's when we strike. Savage's jaw tightened. I'm ready. Ventress's voice was cold. Good. Because we only get one chance. If we fail, we're dead. The transmission ended. Savage sat alone in his quarters, staring at the wall. He thought about Dathomir, about his brothers, about the life he had left behind. He had been chosen for this mission because he was expendable, a tool, just like Ventress had been, just like Maul had been. The Sith used people, drained them, discarded them. Savage clenched his fists. Tomorrow, that would end. The next night, Ventress and Savage struck. Dooku was in his private chambers, reviewing reports from the war. He sensed nothing. The door exploded inward. Ventress stepped through the smoke. Both lightsabers ignited. Dooku's eyes widened in shock. Ventress. She smiled coldly. Hello, Master. Dooku's hand moved to his lightsaber, but Savage was already there. He charged through the doorway like a rancor. His double-bladed lightsaber spun in a deadly arc. Dooku barely had time to ignite his own blade before Savage's attack came crashing down. The duel erupted in an instant. Ventress attacked from the left, Savage from the right. They moved in perfect coordination. Every strike was calculated. Every movement was designed to overwhelm Dooku's defenses. And it was working. Dooku was one of the greatest duelists alive. But he was old, and he was alone. He blocked Ventress's strike, dodged Savage's slash, parried another attack from Ventress. But he was being pushed back, step by step. Sweat dripped down his face. His breathing grew labored. Ventress saw the fear in his eyes, and it felt good. What's wrong, Master? She taunted. Not so easy when your opponent fights back, is it? Dooku snarled. He unleashed a blast of force lightning. Ventress and Savage both dove aside. The lightning scorched the walls, shattered the windows. Dooku used the moment to create distance. He backed toward the doorway. You think you can kill me, he shouted. I am Count Dooku. I have trained for decades. You are nothing. Ventress laughed. Then why are you running? Dooku's face flushed with rage. He charged at her. Their blades met in a shower of sparks. Ventress gritted her teeth. Dooku's strength was overwhelming. He was pushing her back. But then Savage struck from behind. His blade sliced across Dooku's back. Dooku cried out in pain. He stumbled forward. Ventress kicked him in the chest. He fell. For the first time in years, Count Dooku was on the ground. Ventress stood over him, both blades pointed at his throat. "This is for every lie you told me, every promise you broke, every time you used me." She raised her lightsaber, but then the doors burst open. Dooku's personal guards flooded into the room. Dozens of them. Battle droids, Magna Guards, elite soldiers. Savage roared and charged into them. He swung his lightsaber like a club. Bodies flew. Metal shattered. But there were too many. Ventress tried to finish Dooku, but the guards swarmed her. She fought desperately, cut through 3, 4, 5. But they kept coming. Dooku used the chaos to crawl toward the balcony. Ventress saw him. "No!" she screamed. She fought her way through the guards, slashed, stabbed, kicked. But by the time she reached the balcony, Dooku was already climbing into his personal shuttle. The engines roared to life. Ventress threw her lightsaber. It spun through the air, aimed directly at Dooku's head. But the shuttle's ramp closed just in time. The blade bounced off harmlessly. The shuttle lifted into the sky. Ventress stood on the balcony, breathing heavily. Her hands trembled with rage. She had been so close. So close. Savage joined her on the balcony. He was covered in blood and oil. His breathing was heavy. "We need to go," he said. "More guards are coming." Ventress stared at the sky where Dooku's shuttle had disappeared. "I almost had him," she whispered. Savage placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll get another chance." Ventress turned to him. Her eyes were hollow. "Will we?" They returned to Dathomir empty-handed. Talzin was waiting at the village entrance. She took one look at their faces and knew. He escaped. Ventress nodded bitterly. Talzin sighed. "I expected as much. Dooku is cunning. And he has resources we do not." She turned away. "But this is not over." Ventress stepped forward. When will we get another chance?" Talzin looked back at her. "When the time is right." Ventress's jaw clenched. "That's not good enough." Talzin's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Careful, Ventress. You are home. You are safe. Do not throw that away because of impatience." Ventress stared at her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ventress turned and walked away. Talzin watched her go. She understood the feeling, the rage, the frustration. She had felt it herself for years. But rage without focus was just noise. And Talzin needed Ventress focused. The next few weeks were tense. Ventress barely spoke to anyone. She trained alone, ate alone, slept alone. She was drowning in her own anger. The other Nightsisters whispered about her. They said she was broken, that she would never truly be one of them again. Talzin did not intervene. She simply watched and waited. One night, Talzin found Ventress sitting on the cliffs overlooking the valley. The red mist swirled below. The stars were hidden behind thick clouds. Talzin sat down beside her. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Talzin broke the silence. "You blame yourself." Ventress did not look at her. "I hesitated. I should have killed him the moment I saw him." Talzin shook her head. "You did your best. Sometimes that is not enough." Ventress laughed bitterly. "Story of my life." Talzin looked out at the mist. Do you know why I continue to fight, Ventress, even though I know I may never win? Ventress glanced at her. Why? Talzin's eyes were distant. Because giving up is worse than dying. If I stop fighting, if I accept my fate quietly, then Sidious has truly won. But if I fight, even if I lose, then I have stolen something from him. What? Talzin smiled coldly. His peace of mind. Every day I exist, every day I continue to plot and scheme and fight, is a day he must look over his shoulder, a day he must fear. She looked at Ventress. That is victory enough. Ventress stared at her, and for the first time since returning to Dathomir, something inside her shifted. She understood. This was not about winning. This was about refusing to disappear. About refusing to be forgotten. About defiance. Ventress nodded slowly. I understand. Talzin stood and extended her hand. Then stand with me, Ventress, until the end. Ventress looked at the hand. Then she took it. Until the end. But the end came sooner than either of them expected. Because the Separatists had not forgotten about Dathomir. Dooku had returned to Sidious and told him everything. About the attack, about Ventress, about Talzin's involvement. And Sidious decided that Dathomir had become a liability, a problem that needed to be eliminated. He gave the order. General Grievous was dispatched, with an army of battle droids, and orders to kill every Nightsister on the planet. The attack came 3 days later. Ventress was training in the forest when she felt it, a disturbance in the Force. She looked up at the sky, and saw them, ships, hundreds of them, descending through the red clouds like locusts. Her blood ran cold. She sprinted back toward the village. We're under attack, she screamed. The Nightsisters scrambled to grab their weapons. But they were not prepared for this. The first wave of droids landed at the village perimeter. They opened fire immediately. Blaster bolts filled the air. Nightsisters fell. Blood soaked the red earth. And then Grievous arrived. He descended from his personal transport, like death itself. 4 lightsabers ignited in his hands. He did not speak. He did not hesitate. He simply began to kill. Nightsisters charged at him with blades and magic. He cut them down like wheat. His lightsabers spun in a deadly whirlwind. No one could get close. No one could stop him. Ventress watched in horror. Her sisters, her home, everything was being destroyed. She ignited her lightsabers and charged toward Grievous. Their blades met with a deafening crash. Ventress fought with everything she had, every technique she had ever learned, every ounce of strength in her body. But Grievous was a machine. He did not tire, he did not slow, he did not feel pain. He pressed her back, step by step. Ventress's arms burned with exhaustion. She could not win. She knew it. But she refused to run. Then Talzin appeared. She materialized in the center of the battlefield. Her hands raised. Green light exploded from her fingers. The ground beneath the droids cracked open. Spirits erupted from the earth. They swarmed the machines, tearing them apart with invisible claws. For a moment, the tide turned. The Nightsisters rallied. They fought harder. They pushed back. But then more droids arrived. And more. And more. There were too many. Talzin's face was strained. Her power was immense, but even she had limits. Grievous turned his attention to her. He charged across the battlefield. Talzin raised a barrier of green energy. Grievous's lightsabers smashed through it. She summoned spears of bone from the ground. He dodged them effortlessly. She summoned fire. He walked through it without flinching. Nothing stopped him. Talzin realized, too late, that she could not win. Grievous's blade swung toward her head. At the last second, another Nightsister threw herself in front of Talzin. The blade cut through her chest. She fell without a sound. Talzin stared at the body. Then she looked at Grievous. And she made a decision. She raised her hands and transformed herself into mist, into pure magic. Grievous's blades passed through her harmlessly. He snarled in frustration. But Talzin was gone. Ventress saw what happened. She knew what it meant. Talzin had abandoned them. No, not abandoned. She had done the only thing she could. She had survived. Ventress looked around at the burning village, at the dead Nightsisters, at the endless waves of droids. They had lost. There was nothing left to fight for. She made a choice. She ran. Not because she was a coward, but because dying here would accomplish nothing. She fought her way to her ship, cut down any droid that got in her way. She reached the landing platform. The engines were already warming. She took one last look at Dathomir, her home, now a graveyard. Then she climbed into her ship and launched into the sky. Behind her, the village burned. When the battle ended, Dathomir was silent. The Nightsisters were dead. The villages were destroyed. Grievous walked through the ruins, his lightsabers still ignited. He was searching for survivors. He found none. He reported back to Dooku. The Nightsisters have been eliminated. Dooku's hologram nodded in satisfaction. Good. And Talzin? Grievous paused. She escaped, transformed herself into some kind of spirit. I could not kill her. Dooku's expression darkened. Then she is still a threat. Grievous said nothing. Dooku ended the transmission. And Grievous stood alone in the ruins. Somewhere in the red mist, he could feel a presence watching him. Talzin. She was still here. Grievous did not fear her. But he understood. This war was far from over. Savage Opress had been searching for months. Talzin had given him a mission, a purpose. Find her son. Find Maul, the Sith Lord, who had been cut in half on Naboo, who had been abandoned by his master, who had disappeared into the darkness. Everyone believed he was dead, but Talzin knew better. A mother always knows. She had given Savage a talisman, a small amulet that pulsed with green light. It would guide him to Maul, she said. It would lead him across the galaxy to wherever her son had fallen. Savage did not question her. He simply obeyed. He traveled from system to system, following the talisman's pull. It led him through the core worlds, through the mid-rim, deep into the outer rim, to places where civilized beings did not go, to places where hope went to die. And finally, it led him to Lotho Minor. Lotho Minor was a junk planet, a wasteland of discarded machines and broken ships. Mountains of scrap metal stretched as far as the eye could see. The air was toxic. The ground was unstable. Nothing lived here. Nothing except the scavengers, creatures that had been warped by the toxic environment, that fed on metal and oil, that attacked anything that moved. Savage descended into the depths of the junk mountains. The talisman grew brighter with every step. He was close. He moved through narrow corridors of crushed metal, past ancient factories that had long since stopped functioning, through caverns filled with rusted machinery. And then he heard it, a voice, muttering, rambling, speaking words that made no sense. Savage followed the sound. He emerged into a large chamber. The floor was covered in debris. Cables hung from the ceiling like vines. And in the center of it all, something moved. A figure, hunched over, skeletal. Its skin was pale and sickly. Its eyes glowed yellow in the darkness. It had no legs. Instead, it crawled on a crude apparatus made of scrap metal, 6 mechanical legs like a spider. The figure muttered to itself, "Gone, all gone, broken, I am broken. He broke me. Master broke me." Savage's breath caught. This was Maul, his brother, but not the brother he had imagined. This was a shell, a broken, mad thing that barely resembled a person. Savage approached slowly. "Brother." The figure's head snapped up. Its yellow eyes locked onto Savage. For a moment, there was nothing. No recognition. No understanding. Then the figure screamed, "Who are you? Why are you here? Go away. Leave me alone." It scuttled backward on its spider legs. Savage raised his hands. "I am not here to hurt you. I am Savage Opress, your brother." The figure tilted its head. "Brother?" Savage nodded. "Yes. I was sent by our mother. She has been looking for you." The figure's eyes widened. "Mother?" Its voice cracked. Mother is gone. She left me. Everyone left me." Savage stepped closer. "No, she never left you. She has been searching for you for years. And now I am here to bring you home." The figure stared at him, and then it began to weep, not with tears, but with sounds. Broken, guttural sounds that barely resembled sobs. "Home," it whispered. "I want to go home." Savage knelt beside him. "Then come with me, brother. Let me take you home." Maul did not resist. He was too weak, too broken. Savage carried him to his ship, laid him in the cargo hold. Maul stared at the ceiling, his eyes unfocused. He muttered the entire journey. Kenobi cut me. Master left me. I fell forever. Mother, where is Mother?" Savage said nothing. He simply piloted the ship toward Dathomir, toward home. When they arrived, Talzin was waiting. She stood at the landing platform, her hands clasped in front of her. She had felt Maul's presence the moment they entered the system. Her son, alive. The ship landed. The ramp lowered. Savage emerged first. Behind him, crawling on his spider legs, came Maul. Talzin's breath caught. Her son. But not the boy she remembered. This was something else, something broken, something barely alive. Maul's yellow eyes found hers. He stopped. "Mother," he whispered. Talzin's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, my son. I am here." Maul crawled toward her, slowly, hesitantly, as if he feared she would disappear. He reached her, collapsed at her feet. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I'm sorry I failed. I'm sorry I was weak." Talzin knelt beside him. She placed her hands on his face. "You did not fail. You survived. And that is all that matters." She pulled him into her arms. And for the first time in years, Maul felt safe. Talzin carried him to the altar of bones. The same altar where she had learned the ancient magics as a child, where she had performed countless rituals, where she had made her greatest sacrifices. Now, she would use it to save her son. The other Nightsisters gathered around in a circle. Talzin laid Maul on the cold stone. His body was skeletal. His skin was stretched tight over his bones. His spider legs twitched and scraped against the altar. "We must heal him," Talzin said to the Nightsisters. "But his mind is shattered. His memories are broken. This will not be easy." The Nightsisters nodded. They understood. Talzin raised her hands. "We call upon the spirits of Dathomir, the ancient ones, the forgotten ones, the ones who dwell in shadow and blood and bone. Green light filled the air. The spirits answered. They swirled around Maul like a storm. They poured into his body, into his mind. Maul screamed, his back arched. His hands clawed at the stone. The spirits were tearing through his memories, sorting through the broken pieces, trying to put them back together. But his mind was a maze of pain and madness. Every memory was twisted. Every thought was fragmented. The spirits dug deeper. They pulled at the darkness inside him. They dragged out the pain, the betrayal, the years of torment. Maul's screams grew louder. Blood poured from his nose. His eyes rolled back. Talzin watched with tears streaming down her face. She was hurting him. She knew she was hurting him. But it was the only way. "Hold on, my son," she whispered. "Please, hold on." Hours passed. The ritual continued. Maul's screams eventually turned to whimpers, then to silence. The green light began to fade. The spirits withdrew. Maul lay still on the altar. His chest barely rose and fell. Talzin approached slowly. "Maul." His eyes opened. They were still yellow, but they were clear now, focused. He blinked slowly. "Mother." His voice was hoarse, but it was his voice. Not the mad rambling, not the broken sobs. Him. Talzin smiled through her tears. "Yes, my son. I am here." Maul sat up slowly. He looked down at his body, at the crude spider legs attached to his torso. He touched them with his hands, his expression twisted with disgust. "These are pathetic," he said quietly. Talzin nodded. "We will make you better ones." Maul looked at her. "You saved me." Talzin placed a hand on his cheek. "You are my son. I will always save you." Maul's expression softened. Then it hardened again. "I remember everything now. What he did to me, how he used me, how he abandoned me." His jaw clenched. "I want him dead, Mother. I want Sidious to suffer the way I suffered." Talzin smiled coldly. "Then we want the same thing." Over the next weeks, Talzin used her magic to craft new legs for Maul. She gathered the finest materials on Dathomir, Dathomirian steel, dark crystals infused with the Force, bones from ancient creatures. She forged them in the fires of the altar. She chanted over them for days. She poured her own life force into them. And when she was finished, she presented them to Maul. They were not crude metal, not scavenged junk. They were works of art, black as midnight, sleek and powerful. They moved as naturally as flesh. Maul stood for the first time in years. He took a step, then another. He walked across the chamber. Then he ran. Then he leaped. He felt whole again. He ignited his lightsaber and moved through a series of forms. The muscle memory returned instantly. The training, the discipline, the killer inside. Savage watched from the doorway. "You are strong again, brother." Maul turned to him. "I am more than strong. I am angry. And anger is the greatest power in the galaxy." Over the following weeks, Maul trained relentlessly. He sparred with Savage daily. At first, Savage held back. He did not want to hurt his brother. But Maul did not want mercy. "Fight me," Maul snarled. "Fight me like you mean to kill me." Savage unleashed everything. His strength, his size, his ferocity. But Maul was faster. He dodged Savage's attacks, countered with precision, struck at weak points. Within minutes, Savage was on the defensive. Within an hour, Savage was defeated. He lay on the ground, breathing heavily. Maul stood over him. "You are strong, brother, but strength without speed is useless." He extended a hand. Savage took it. "Teach me," Savage said. Maul smiled. I will. One night, Maul stood on the cliffs of Dathomir, staring up at the stars. Talzin joined him. What are you thinking about? She asked. Maul did not look at her. Revenge, power, the future. Talzin smiled. A dangerous combination. Maul glanced at her. You want revenge too? Don't pretend otherwise. Talzin nodded. I do, but I am patient. I have been planning for years. I can wait years more if necessary. Maul shook his head. I can't. I've already lost too much time. Every day Sidious lives is an insult to my existence. Talzin studied him. What do you plan to do? Maul's eyes burned with cold fire. I'm going to build an army. I'm going to take control of the criminal underworld. I'm going to create an empire so powerful that even Sidious will fear me. Talzin raised an eyebrow. That is ambitious. Maul looked at her. You taught me to be ambitious. Talzin laughed softly. That I did. She placed a hand on his shoulder. Then go, my son. Build your empire. Become the monster Sidious created. Show him what happens when you cast aside a weapon without destroying it completely. Maul nodded. And when I am ready, we will destroy him together. Talzin's smile widened. Together. Maul and Savage left Dathomir the next day. They took a ship and traveled to the Outer Rim, to the lawless territories where power was the only law. Maul's first target was Black Sunday, a criminal syndicate that controlled smuggling routes across dozens of systems. They were wealthy, connected, dangerous, perfect. Maul and Savage walked into Black Sun's headquarters on Mustafar without an appointment. The guards tried to stop them. Savage broke the first guard's neck with his bare hands. Maul cut down the other three with his lightsaber before they could draw their weapons. They walked through the corpses without breaking stride. The inner chamber was filled with Black Sun's leadership, a dozen crime lords, each one more dangerous than the last. They looked up as Maul entered. One of them stood. Who are you? Maul smiled coldly. Your new master. They laughed, until Maul ignited his lightsaber. Then the laughter stopped. You have two choices, Maul said calmly. You can serve me, or you can die. One of the crime lords pulled a blaster. Maul threw his lightsaber. It spun through the air and cut the man in half. The blade returned to Maul's hand. He looked at the others. Anyone else? No one moved. Maul walked to the center of the room. Good. From this moment on, Black Sun serves me. Your resources are mine. Your soldiers are mine. Your territory is mine. He looked at each of them. You will obey me without question. You will not betray me. You will not run. Because if you do, I will hunt you down. I will kill everyone you love. And then I will kill you slowly. The crime lords stared at him. One of them finally spoke. And if we serve you faithfully, Maul smiled, then you will prosper. I am not interested in ruling every detail of your operations. I simply want your loyalty and your resources. He deactivated his lightsaber. So, do we have an agreement? The crime lords looked at each other. Then, one by one, they nodded. Maul had his first army. Next came the Pike Syndicate. They controlled the spice trade, a highly addictive narcotic worth more than gold in some systems. Maul did not kill their leaders. Instead, he made them an offer. Join me voluntarily. Keep your positions. Keep your profits. All I ask is loyalty and a share of your resources. The Pikes were pragmatic. They saw which way the wind was blowing. They joined. Then came smaller syndicates. Smugglers, arms dealers, slavers. One by one, Maul brought them under his control. Some joined willingly, others had to be convinced. With violence. Within months, Maul controlled a significant portion of the Outer Rim's criminal underworld. He had soldiers, ships, wealth, information networks. He was building an empire. But empire building attracted attention. Rumors began to spread. A Zabrak with a red lightsaber, a former Sith, building a criminal empire in the Outer Rim. The Jedi Council heard these rumors. They were concerned. If a dark side user was consolidating power, it could threaten the Republic. They sent a small task force to investigate. 3 Jedi Knights. They tracked Maul to a space station in the Halloween Badlands. They confronted him in the station's main hangar. "You are under arrest," one of them said. Maul looked at them with cold amusement. "Am I?" He ignited his lightsaber. The Jedi ignited theirs. The duel began, but Maul did not fight them alone. He had dozens of soldiers positioned around the hangar, hidden, waiting. At Maul's signal, they opened fire. Blaster bolts rained down from every direction. The Jedi tried to deflect them, but there were too many. One of the Jedi fell within seconds. The other 2 tried to retreat. Maul did not let them. He charged forward. His blade was a red blur. He cut down the second Jedi with a single strike. The third Jedi tried to run. Savage threw his lightsaber. It spun through the air and pierced the Jedi's back. He fell, dead before he hit the ground. Maul stood over the bodies. He looked at his soldiers. "This is a message. To the Jedi, to the Republic, to anyone who stands in my way." He raised his lightsaber. "I am not hiding anymore. I am not running. I am here, and I will take what is mine." Word of the Jedi massacre reached Coruscant. The Jedi Council was horrified. 3 Jedi Knights, dead, killed by a former Sith and his criminal army. This was unprecedented. They called an emergency session. "We must send a larger force," one council member argued. "No," said Master Yoda. "Into the shadows. This enemy has gone. Find him, we cannot." "Not yet." "Then what do we do?" Yoda's eyes were troubled. "Wait, we must. And watch. Reveal himself, he will. And when he does, ready we must be." But it was not the Jedi who posed the greatest threat to Maul. It was his former master. Sidious had been monitoring the situation from Coruscant. He had heard the rumors. He had read the reports. Maul was alive. Maul was strong. Maul was building something that could threaten everything Sidious had worked for. Sidious sat in his office, alone. His expression was unreadable. But inside, he was calculating. Maul was becoming a problem that needed to be dealt with. But not yet. Sidious was patient. He would let Maul build his empire. He would let Maul grow confident. And then, when the time was right, Sidious would strike, and he would remind Maul who his master was. Maul's empire continued to grow. From the Outer Rim, he expanded his reach into the Mid-Rim. He took control of hyperspace lanes. He extorted protection money from shipping companies. He infiltrated planetary governments. He was no longer just a crime lord. He was a warlord. And his ultimate target was Mandalore, the ancient warrior world, neutral in the Clone Wars, proud, independent. If Maul could conquer Mandalore, the entire galaxy would take notice. He would have legitimacy, political power, a throne. But Mandalore could not be taken by force alone. It had to be taken from within. Maul's opportunity came in the form of Death Watch. a Mandalorian splinter group that rejected the pacifist ways of Duchess Satine Kryze. They wanted to return Mandalore to its warrior roots. Their leader was Pre Vizsla, a cunning warrior who wielded the ancient darksaber. Maul approached him with an offer. They met on a barren moon. Just the two of them. Vizsla was suspicious. Why would a Sith help Mandalorians? Maul smiled. Because we want the same thing. You want to overthrow the Duchess. I want a base of operations. A planet where I can consolidate my power. Vizsla's eyes narrowed. And what do you get out of this? Maul spread his hands. I help you take Mandalore. You become its leader, and in return, I operate from the shadows. Your people never even know I'm there. Vizsla considered this. Why should I trust you? Maul's expression turned cold. Because you have no other choice. The Duchess has the support of the Jedi, the Republic. You cannot defeat her alone. He leaned closer. But with my resources, my soldiers, my expertise, we can destroy her. And you can have your throne. Vizsla stared at him for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. Very well. We have an alliance. Maul shook it. But behind his smile, his mind was already calculating. He had no intention of letting Vizsla keep the throne. The campaign against Duchess Satine was methodical. Maul and Death Watch staged attacks across Mandalore. They bombed civilian targets. They blamed the attacks on the Duchess's incompetence. The people grew frightened. They began to question her leadership. Protests erupted. The government became unstable. And then, Maul made his final move. Death Watch stormed the royal palace. They captured the Duchess. They executed her guards. Pre Vizsla declared himself the new leader of Mandalore. The people did not resist. They were too afraid. Maul watched from the shadows. Everything was going according to plan. But Vizsla made a mistake. He underestimated Maul. At the celebration feast, Vizsla gave a speech. We have reclaimed our world. We have restored our warrior heritage. Mandalore is ours once again. The crowd cheered. Maul stepped forward from the shadows. Actually, it's mine. The crowd fell silent. Vizsla turned to him, confused. What are you talking about? Maul smiled. You served your purpose, Vizsla. But I have no use for you anymore. Vizsla's hand moved to the darksaber. You dare betray me. Maul's smile widened. I dare many things. He ignited his lightsaber. I challenge you. According to Mandalorian tradition, the winner rules. Vizsla's eyes narrowed, but he could not refuse. Not in front of his people. He ignited the darksaber. So be it. The duel was brief. Vizsla was skilled. He had trained his entire life. But Maul had been forged in the fires of Sith training. Their blades clashed, sparks flew. Vizsla fought valiantly. But within minutes, Maul had disarmed him. The darksaber clattered to the ground. Maul kicked Vizsla in the chest. He fell. Maul stood over him. You were a useful tool. But tools break. He drove his lightsaber through Vizsla's chest. Vizsla gasped. His eyes went wide. And then he was dead. Maul turned to the assembled Mandalorians. I am your leader now. Anyone who disagrees is welcome to challenge me. No one moved. Maul picked up the darksaber. He ignited it. The black blade hummed. Mandalore is mine. But not all Mandalorians accepted Maul's rule. A faction loyal to the old ways refused to bow. They were led by Bo-Katan Kryze, the Duchess's sister. She and her followers fled the capital. They began organizing a resistance. Maul did not care. He had what he wanted, a throne, a planet, power. Let the rebels hide in the shadows. They were no threat to him. But there was one person Maul wanted to see suffer. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Jedi who had cut him in half, who had destroyed his life. Maul had the Duchess brought to the throne room. Satine was beaten, her robes were torn, but her eyes still burned with defiance. "You will not break me," she said. Maul tilted his head. "I don't need to break you. I just need to hurt someone you love." He activated a holographic communicator, and on the other end appeared Obi-Wan Kenobi. The Jedi's eyes widened when he saw Satine. "Let her go, Maul." Maul smiled. "Why would I do that? She is the perfect tool to hurt you, just as you hurt me." Kenobi's face twisted with anguish. "This is between us. Leave her out of it." Maul's smile faded. "You left me to die, Kenobi. You cut me in half and left me in a reactor shaft. I spent years in agony, years in madness, all because of you." He ignited his lightsaber. "Now you will feel that pain." "No," Kenobi screamed. But it was too late. Maul drove his blade through Satine's chest. She gasped. Her eyes went wide. She looked at Kenobi one last time. I've always loved you," she whispered. And then she fell. Kenobi's scream echoed through the transmission. Maul watched with cold satisfaction. "Now you know how it feels." He ended the transmission, and he left Kenobi alone with his grief. But Maul's victory was short-lived, because Sidious had been watching, and he had seen enough. Maul had conquered a planet. He had killed a Jedi's loved one in front of him. He had drawn the attention of the entire galaxy. He had become a threat, and Sidious did not tolerate threats. He traveled to Mandalore himself. Maul was sitting on his throne when he felt it. A presence, dark, overwhelming, familiar. His blood turned to ice. Sidious. The doors to the throne room exploded inward. Sidious walked through the smoke, his yellow eyes glowing. Maul stood slowly. "Master." His voice was calm, but his hands trembled. Sidious smiled. "Maul, you have been busy." Maul said nothing. Savage stepped forward, his lightsaber igniting. "I will not let you hurt my brother." Sidious glanced at him. How noble, and how foolish. He raised his hand. Lightning erupted from his fingers. Savage screamed as the electricity tore through him. His body convulsed. His skin burned. And then he collapsed, dead. Maul stared at his brother's corpse. Rage flooded through him. "You killed him." Sidious shrugged. "He was in my way." Maul roared and attacked. The duel was brutal. Maul fought with everything he had. All his training, all his rage, all his hatred. But Sidious was too powerful. He deflected Maul's strikes effortlessly. He countered with attacks that Maul could barely block. And all the while, he mocked him. "You were always weak, Maul. A broken tool that thought it could become a master." Maul gritted his teeth and attacked harder. Sidious caught his blade with one hand. "You disappoint me." He unleashed a torrent of force lightning. Maul screamed. The pain was unbearable. Every nerve in his body was on fire. He collapsed to his knees. Sidious stood over him. "You have become strong, Maul. I will give you that. But strength without wisdom is meaningless." He grabbed Maul by the throat and lifted him into the air. "You thought you could challenge me. You thought you could build an empire and I would not notice." He squeezed. Maul choked, his vision blurred. "You will live, because I want you to remember this moment. I want you to remember who your master is." He threw Maul across the room. Maul hit the wall and crumpled to the ground. Sidious turned to leave. Enjoy your throne, Maul, while you still have it. And then he was gone. Maul lay on the ground, barely conscious. His body was burned. His pride was shattered. But he was alive. He did not understand why Sidious had spared him. But he knew one thing. This was not over. He would heal. He would grow stronger. And one day he would kill Sidious, even if it took the rest of his life. On Dathomir, Talzin felt the moment Savage died. She collapsed in her chambers, gasping for air. Another son, gone, taken by Sidious. The pain was overwhelming, but beneath the pain was something else. Rage, cold, pure, absolute. Talzin stood slowly. Her eyes burned with green fire. Sidious had taken everything from her. Her first son, her second son, her home, her people. She had waited long enough. She had been patient long enough. It was time to act. Time to go to war. Time to kill Sidious. Or die trying. Talzin began preparations immediately. She could not attack Sidious directly on Coruscant. He was too well protected, too powerful. She needed to draw him out, to a place where she had the advantage. She sent a message through the Force, a challenge. Come to Ord Mantell, Sidious. Face me, or admit you are a coward. She knew he would come. His pride would demand it. And when he did, she would be waiting. Talzin traveled to Ord Mantell alone. It was a remote world, far from prying eyes, far from Jedi or Republic interference. Perfect. She landed in an abandoned factory on the outskirts of a dead city. And she waited. She did not have to wait long. Within hours, she felt his presence. Sidious had arrived. Talzin stood in the center of the factory floor. The doors opened. Sidious walked in, flanked by Count Dooku. He smiled when he saw her. Talzin, I was wondering when you would finally show yourself. Talzin's expression was cold. You murdered my son. Sidious shrugged. He was interfering with my plans. I simply removed an obstacle. Talzin's hands clenched into fists. You will pay for that. Sidious's smile widened. Will I? Talzin raised her hands. And the battle began. Green energy erupted from Talzin's hands. It wrapped around Sidious like chains, like living serpents, like the very fabric of the Force twisted into weapons. Sidious gasped. For the first time in decades, he felt pain. The energy squeezed, it burned, it drained his life force. Talzin's form began to flicker. She was no longer entirely solid. She had transformed herself into something between flesh and spirit. You took everything from me, she said coldly. Now I will take everything from you. She poured more power into the attack. Sidious's skin began to crack. His eyes went wide. He tried to summon the Force, tried to fight back. But Talzin's magic was different from anything he had faced before. It was not the clean, disciplined power of the Sith. It was wild, primal, ancient. It bypassed his defenses. It ignored his countermeasures. It simply attacked his life force directly. Sidious fell to his knees. He was dying, and he knew it. But Dooku was there. He ignited his lightsaber and lunged at Talzin. The blade passed through her flickering form, but it disrupted her concentration. The chains of energy around Sidious loosened. He gasped for air. Talzin turned her gaze to Dooku. You dare interfere? Dooku stepped between her and Sidious. I will not let you kill my master. Talzin smiled coldly. Loyal to the end. How pathetic. She raised both hands. The ground beneath Dooku cracked open. Spirits erupted from below. Dozens of them. Hundreds. They swarmed Dooku like locusts. He swung his lightsaber desperately, cut through them. But they kept coming. They clawed at his face. They pulled at his robes. They screamed in his ears. Dooku stumbled backward. Sidious used the distraction to recover. He stood, his body still smoking from Talzin's attack. "Enough," he said. He raised his hands, and he unleashed a wave of dark side energy, so powerful it shook the entire building. The spirits were obliterated instantly. Talzin's form flickered violently. She snarled in frustration. She was not strong enough. Not yet. She needed more time, more preparation. So she made a tactical retreat. She transformed herself into mist and vanished. One moment she was there. The next, she was gone. Sidious collapsed into a sitting position, breathing heavily. Dooku rushed to his side. "My lord, are you all right?" Sidious waved him off. "I'm fine, but she is more dangerous than I anticipated." He looked at the spot where Talzin had been. "She has learned to transcend her physical form. That makes her nearly impossible to kill." Dooku frowned. "Then how do we stop her?" Sidious's eyes narrowed. "We force her to become solid. We take away her ability to escape." "How?" Sidious smiled coldly. "We take her son." Maul was still on Mandalore when he received the message. It was from Talzin. "Sent through the Force. They are coming for you. You must leave. Now." But Maul did not run. He had spent too long building his empire. He would not abandon it because of a threat. He reinforced his defenses. He called in his soldiers. He prepared for war. And then they arrived. Separatist ships descended from the sky. Hundreds of them. Battle droids poured out. Super battle droids, droidicas, commando droids. And leading them was General Grievous. The battle for Mandalore was brutal. Maul's criminal soldiers fought valiantly. But they were no match for the Separatist war machine. The droids were relentless. They never tired. They never retreated. They simply advanced. Step by step, they pushed Maul's forces back. Maul fought at the front lines. His lightsaber was a red blur. He cut through dozens of droids, hundreds, but there were too many. Savage was dead. He had no one to watch his back. A droidica rolled forward. Its shields activated. It opened fire. Maul dodged the first few blasts, but one caught him in the shoulder. He cried out and stumbled. The droidica advanced. Maul raised his lightsaber to defend himself, but then a green blade blocked the shots. Maul looked up in shock. It was Bo-Katan, the rebel leader. "I hate you," she said, "but I hate them more." She and her Mandalorian resistance fighters had joined the battle. Together, Maul and Bo-Katan fought side by side. They pushed back the droids. They reclaimed ground. For a moment, it seemed like they might win. Then, Grievous himself entered the battlefield. He descended from a gunship, his 4 lightsabers already ignited. He charged into the Mandalorian lines like a hurricane. His blade spun in a deadly whirlwind. Mandalorians fell before him like wheat before a scythe. Bo-Katan tried to stop him. She fired her blasters, threw grenades. Grievous deflected the shots effortlessly. He dodged the explosions. He grabbed her by the throat and lifted her into the air. "Weak," he growled. He threw her aside like a rag doll. She hit the ground hard and did not move. Maul saw this. He roared and charged at Grievous. Their blades met in a shower of sparks. The duel was vicious. Maul was fast, skilled, fueled by rage. But Grievous was a machine. He did not tire. He did not feel pain. He did not hesitate. He pressed Maul back, step by step. Maul's arms burned with exhaustion. His breathing was labored. He could not win. Not like this. Grievous's blade cut across Maul's chest. Maul cried out and stumbled backward. Grievous advanced for the killing blow. But then something happened. The air grew cold. Green mist filled the battlefield. And from the mist, a figure appeared. Talzin. She materialized between Maul and Grievous. Her form was translucent, flickering, made of green light and shadow. But her presence was overwhelming. Grievous stopped. Talzin looked at him with cold fury. "You will not touch my son." She raised her hands. Green energy wrapped around Grievous. He struggled. His mechanical joints groaned. But the energy was too strong. Talzin lifted him into the air. "You are a machine. Machines can be broken." She squeezed. Grievous's armor began to crack. His limbs twisted. His lightsabers fell from his hands. He roared in fury. But he could not break free. Talzin was about to crush him completely. Then Sidious and Dooku arrived. They descended from a transport ship. Together, Sidious raised his hand. "Release him, Talzin." Talzin turned to face them. For a moment, she hesitated. Then she smiled. "As you wish." She threw Grievous at them. He crashed into the ground at their feet. Sidious and Dooku ignited their lightsabers. Talzin's form solidified. The final battle had begun. Talzin fought all three of them at once. Sidious with his lightning, Dooku with his blade, Grievous with his 4 lightsabers. It should have been impossible. But Talzin was beyond normal limits now. She flickered between solid and ethereal. She summoned spirits. She manipulated the battlefield itself. The ground cracked open. Walls collapsed. Fire erupted from nowhere. Sidious struggled to keep up. Dooku was thrown back by a wave of energy. Grievous was caught in chains of green light. Talzin was winning. Maul watched from the sidelines, barely conscious. His mother was fighting for him, dying for him. He had to help. He forced himself to stand. He ignited his lightsaber and charged into the battle. He attacked Dooku from behind. Dooku barely blocked the strike. Now it was 4 against 2. The tide was turning, but Sidious was not done. He unleashed everything he had. Lightning poured from his hands in torrents. It filled the battlefield. It struck everything. Talzin screamed as the lightning hit her. Her form flickered violently. She was losing her grip on the physical world. Sidious pressed harder. "You cannot win, Talzin. You are powerful, but I am eternal." Talzin gritted her teeth. She poured every last ounce of her magic into one final attack. Green energy erupted from her body. It wrapped around Sidious. It squeezed. It drained. Sidious gasped. His lightning faltered. For a moment, it seemed like Talzin would win. But then Grievous broke free. He charged forward. His lightsabers stabbed through Talzin's back. She gasped. Her eyes went wide. The green energy around Sidious faded. Talzin looked down at the blades protruding from her chest. She smiled. You think this is over?" Grievous twisted the blades. Talzin screamed, but she did not fall. Not yet. She looked at Maul, her son, her reason for fighting. "Run," she whispered through the Force. Maul shook his head. "No, I won't leave you." Talzin smiled. "You must live, my son, and never forget what they did to us." Talzin's body began to dissolve. Not into blood and flesh, into mist, into pure magic. Grievous stabbed her again, and again, but his blades passed through smoke. Talzin's laughter echoed across the battlefield. You cannot kill me. I am Dathomir. I am the spirits. I am the magic itself. Her form faded completely, but her presence remained, in the air, in the ground, in every shadow. Sidious stared at the spot where she had been. She has transcended death, he said quietly. Dooku frowned. What does that mean? Sidious's expression was grim. It means she is more dangerous now than she ever was. Maul stared at the empty space where his mother had been. She was gone, but not dead. He could still feel her. Faintly, like a whisper in the back of his mind. She was still with him. Always. Sidious turned to Maul. Your mother is gone. Your empire is destroyed. You have nothing left. Maul looked at him with cold hatred. I have my revenge. And that is enough. Sidious smiled. Is it? He gestured to Grievous. Kill him. Grievous advanced. But before he could strike, Bo-Katan and her Mandalorians opened fire. They created a distraction. Maul used the opportunity to flee. He ran through the battlefield, dodged blaster fire, leaped over debris. He reached a ship and launched into the sky. Behind him, Mandalore burned, but he was alive, and as long as he lived, his mother's fight would continue. On Dathomir, the red mist swirled through the ruins. The spirits whispered, the trees groaned, and in the center of it all, a figure began to form. She was translucent, flickering, made of green light and shadow. But she was there, Talzin. She looked down at her hands. They were not solid, not real, but they were powerful. She had become something beyond life and death. A ghost, a legend, a warning. She looked up at the red sky. I am not finished, she whispered. I will never be finished. Her form faded into the mist, but her presence remained, watching, waiting, eternal. Years passed. The Clone Wars ended. The Jedi were destroyed. The Empire rose. Sidious became Emperor. He ruled the galaxy with an iron fist. But he never forgot Talzin. He could still feel her out there, a presence at the edge of his awareness. She haunted him, not physically, but mentally. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, standing in the shadows, smiling at him. I am still here, she would whisper, and I am waiting. Sidious feared her, because he knew one thing. Some enemies never truly die. They simply wait for the right moment to strike. Maul continued his life of revenge. He fought against the Empire. He hunted Obi-Wan Kenobi. He never stopped moving, because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering. His mother, his brother, everything he had lost. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, he would feel her presence, a warmth in the Force, a gentle touch on his mind. Be strong, my son, she would whisper. I am with you. And Maul believed her, because he had to. She was all he had left. Decades later, Maul finally found Kenobi, on Tatooine, a desert planet in the Outer Rim. They dueled one last time. It was brief. 3 strikes. Kenobi's blade cut through Maul's lightsaber, then through his chest. Maul fell. He lay dying in Kenobi's arms. He will avenge us, Maul whispered. Kenobi understood. Luke, Maul nodded weakly, and then he closed his eyes, at peace for the first time in his life. On Dathomir, Talzin felt the moment her son died. She did not scream, she did not cry. She simply stopped. The green mist on Dathomir grew still. The spirits grew silent. Talzin's presence began to fade, not because she was defeated, but because she had nothing left to fight for. Her sons were dead. Her enemy had won. There was no point anymore. So she let go. She dissolved into the Force. Her consciousness scattered across the galaxy. She became one with the magic, with the spirits, with Dathomir itself. But even now, centuries after her death, travelers to Dathomir report strange occurrences. A figure in the mist, a woman's voice on the wind, green lights in the darkness. The locals say it is Mother Talzin, still watching, still waiting. Some say she is a ghost, a legend, a story told to frighten children. Others say she is real, that she never truly died, that she is still there, in the red mist, in the shadows, waiting for someone to call her name, waiting for someone who needs her, waiting for the next lost soul who needs a mother. Because mothers never truly die. They linger in memory, in spirit, in the hearts of those they loved. Mother Talzin sacrificed everything for her sons. She fought gods and monsters. She defied the most powerful Sith Lord in history. She refused to be forgotten. She was betrayed. She was broken. She was destroyed. But she never surrendered. And in the end, that is what matters most. Not victory, not power, but defiance. The refusal to go quietly into the dark. The refusal to let evil win without a fight. Talzin's story is not one of triumph. It is a story of loss, of pain, of a mother's love twisted by darkness. But it is also a story of strength, of resilience, of the indomitable will to survive. She was used by Sidious, betrayed, cast aside. But she did not accept that fate. She fought back. With everything she had. She fought for her sons, for her people, for herself. And even though she lost, even though she died, her legacy lived on. In the whispers of Dathomir, in the legends told across the galaxy, in the memory of those who knew her name. Some stories end in victory, others end in tragedy. But the best stories end in defiance, in the refusal to be erased, in the determination to be remembered. Mother Talzin's story is one of those. She will never be forgotten, because legends never die. They simply become part of the shadows, waiting, watching, eternal. And so, if you ever find yourself on Dathomir, in the red mist and the twisted forests, listen carefully. You might hear a voice, soft, ancient, powerful, a mother's voice, calling out to the lost, offering comfort to the broken, promising vengeance to the betrayed. That is Mother Talzin, the Witch of Dathomir, the Queen of Shadows, the mother who never stopped fighting. Her body is gone, but her spirit remains, forever.